What was Joseph supposed to do? Mary had come up pregnant, and it wasn't his. You can imagine what Joseph was thinking when he got the news that she was going to bear a child, and he knew that he wasn't the father. Can you imagine the dynamic that must have put between him and Mary? Can you imagine the feelings that he must have and be having about the situation he finds himself in? And he's left with a tough choice. If he leaves her, she's going to be disgraced. The rest of her life will be in jeopardy. However, he'll be off the hook. However, if he stays, he will be having to raise a child that's not his and probably feel like he's been made a fool by Mary. Joseph has a tough decision. And either way, the decision that he's going to make will affect several generations. It'll affect his generation. It'll affect the child. It might affect his parents or his family because of what his decision is. Joseph has a tough decision to make. Have you ever thought about the decisions that we make in times when we get confronted with tough decisions? Have you ever thought about our decisions, how they affect multiple generations? I don't think we think about that very much. Think about the decision on whether to move to a new location or not. Think about deciding on a career or making a career change. Think about what it means to stand up for something that you believe in. These are all decisions that affect not just you, but the people around you and the people that come after you. Perhaps your family, maybe the generation before you. I don't think we put much thought into how our decisions that we make in the moment can have a big effect that ripples out in ways that we don't really comprehend. You might have heard of this, but the Iroquois have a philosophy called 7-generation thinking. And in this philosophy, it says that we are impacted by the decisions made by generations before us. So the way we're living right now is affected by people that may be 2 or 3 generations behind us. We're still feeling the effects of decisions that they have made. But also the decisions that we make affect generations to come. That the philosophy is that we're not just a solo entity. We are part of a great chain of being. We're all connected across space and across time. And so when the Iroquois would make decisions, they would have a long decision-making process in which they'd seek out how the impact of their decision would play out beyond just themselves, but on into the future, 7 generations ahead. And one interesting thing is that science has kind of bore out this way of thinking. Science has found that trauma that people experience in life can affect generations ahead because the trauma that they experience actually changes their DNA. Scientists and researchers have found this out. They found it in families of Holocaust victims, that their DNA was altered by the trauma that their ancestors experienced. It's also been experienced by First Nations people. In this article on 7-generation thinking, a writer, Charlotte Akers, put this in her article. It said, researchers have evidence that massive generational trauma, such as the genocidal policies enacted against the First Peoples of Canada, can potentially be passed down epigenetically for over a dozen generations, literally altering the genetic instructions of a family's DNA for centuries. Choices that people make in a particular time and place don't stay in that particular time and place. They ripple out among generations, and they can have an effect on the way this world operates. The thing is, sometimes we have to make choices that are hard, and these hard choices can be difficult ones to make. Making good, positive choices can be difficult. In Joseph's case, as he had silently decided to let Mary go, an angel comes to him in a dream, tells him not to worry, that Mary is bearing Jesus, the Son of God, and that this child will restore the throne of David. When he wakes up, he knows what he has to do. This dream has made an impact on Joseph's life. But you know what's interesting? I don't think enough people think about this, is sometimes we know what the right choice to make is. We know that what the morally right thing to do is. But do we always make that right choice, that correct choice? Do we always make that positive choice? Because many times the right choice is the harder one to make. Sometimes it will require more work and more sacrifice. Sometimes it will require going against consensus thinking. Sometimes it will require a boldness that we might not think that we have. See, the good news in our story today is that Joseph chose the better way. He followed God's lead. He trusted God. And he believed in himself. I think we don't give Joseph enough credit that he made the right choice. He was brave enough to follow God. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll feel like God is telling me to go in a certain is leading me to go in a certain direction, and it's just not something that I want to do, and so I fight it. Eventually, I can't resist it anymore, and I might take it, but I'll fight against it, and my life will be a mess up until that decision point where I decide to follow the path I think God is telling me to make. But Joseph knew the hard choice he had to make, and he made it. And he raised Jesus as his own. He chose the better way. And I believe that his decision actually did kind of change history. Sure, we know Jesus was the Son of God, and I believe he would have had an impact no matter what. But we don't get to know Jesus until Jesus is 30 years old. I can't help but think that Joseph as a carpenter, Joseph as a man, Joseph as an individual shaped Jesus and how to tell stories and how to work and how to teach. I can't help but think that Joseph had an impact on Jesus the human. And in some way, shape, or form, I think Joseph affected the impact that Jesus had on this world. Sometimes I think and wonder, what if Joseph had not followed the path that God had led him to and gone ahead and separated himself from Mary? I wonder what course that would have taken Jesus in life. But no, this Galilean carpenter listened to God, followed God, raised Jesus as his own, chose the better way, and I believe shaped Jesus in a very important way. We too can be like Joseph and choose the better way. We too can be like Joseph and hear and listen to God. Listen to what Jesus and the Gospels are telling us. Listen to the way the Spirit is pushing us. And even if it's difficult, even if we don't want to, we can make a tough decision and make a decision that is the right choice. That is the positive, the good choice. I think if we were to do that, a lot of things could change in this world. We can complain about a lot because there's a lot to complain about in this world right now. But what if we thought about the impact 7 generations ahead of the choices that we made? Think about what that would affect, how that would affect us. What if we made economic choices in our lives that would affect our great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren? What if we designed our cities and our houses and our families in ways that would support people on down the line? Maybe not even our own family, but the people that are close to us, our neighbors, following Jesus' commandment to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. What are the hard choices that we have to make in life, but we know are the right things to do? They might be hard for us. We might not see immediate effects. We might not know what that will do 7 generations ahead. But think about the impact that we could have if we choose the better way. A lot of this 7 generational thinking is concerned with the environment and the climate change. And so a lot of people put the idea of thinking what we have to do now to save our planet in the future. But I like to think even smaller than that. Because sometimes when we think about these huge things, it might be overwhelming. But like I said, what can we do in our families? What are changes that we can make in our families? Put our families in paths that are a better way, that might be a little bit uncomfortable. What in our lives, how we invest our money, how we spend our money. What are some hard choices that we could make that could affect on down the line? In our prayer time, when we're opening ourselves up to the Spirit and up to God, where do we feel God pushing us that we're a little resistant to? Maybe we need to reflect on those a little bit. Maybe we need to choose the better way, the way of God, the way of the Spirit. We can choose a better way. It might be difficult, it might be hard, but it is possible. Joseph chose the better way, and I know we can too. Amen.